Okay, so remember the basic transformations for graphing from pre-calculus. We could use those to graph some transformations of trig functions as long as they're relatively simple. If things get a little more complicated, then we have to do something else. We don't really have to do something else, but it's actually a little easier to do something else. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, so let's graph cosine of x and then cosine of x minus 1 together on the same set of axes. Okay, so we just want to graph them together to see how they relate to each other. Okay, so we'll come down here a little bit, and let's go ahead and draw. I guess we can do it up here. Okay, okay, so here's our x-axis. We'll put our y-axis here. Okay, so here's our y-axis. Okay, so let's say let's maybe make each little grid up this way 1/2 unit. So here's a half unit, here's 1 full unit. So 1 will be up here, and then down here is -1/2, so -1 would be here. Here's -1. And then let's see, let's maybe make this pi over 2. So then this guy will be pi, this guy will be 3 pi over 2. Okay. And then this here would be 2 pi. And then back this way, this will be -pi over 2. Oh, by the way, if you want to follow along with graph paper but you don't have any, check the video description. There will be a link in there. You can click the link and open up a PDF file with some graph paper that you can print out. So anyway, -pi over 2, -pi, -3 pi over 2, and then -2 pi would be next over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph the cosine function. So we know what the cosine function looks like. It just starts up here and it goes down, sort of like that. Then it comes up like this. Cosine of pi is -1. Cosine of 3 pi over 2 is 0. Comes back up here like this. And then it's going to keep going infinitely far this way. Okay. So then if we go out this way, cosine of, cosine of -pi is -1, okay, so scratch that. And then we come back up this way. So I kind of dipped the axis too low here when I drew that. But, anyway, come back up here this way. Cosine of -2 pi is +1, and then it would continue out like this. Okay, so this that we just struggled through right here is cosine of x. So this is y equals cosine of x. Okay. Now what we want to do is graph cosine of x minus 1. So it's like this basically, cosine of x and then minus 1. So what does that do to the graph of the cosine function? So remember, if you have it out here like this, that -1, what that's going to do is take this graph and shift everything down 1 unit. Okay, so that's going to shift everything down 1. So let's extend this further down a little bit. So we're going to have the exact same shape, everything like that is just going to be pushed down 1 full unit. So here, this point's going to be pushed down 1 unit. This point here is pushed down 1 unit, which we put over here. This point is pushed down 1 unit, or sorry, this point right here is pushed down 1 unit, so that'll put us over here. Likewise, this is pushed down 1 unit over here, and this is pushed down 1 unit over here. So what we're going to have is, so again, same exact shape, okay, the shape is exactly the same, it's just everything's pushed down 1 unit. Okay. So that's what we have here. Okay. And the pattern is going to continue over here. And likewise, same thing happens over here. This point gets pushed down 1 unit. This point pushed down 1 unit. This point pushed down 1 unit. Same thing over here, pushed down 1 unit. Okay, so we can keep going this way. We'll go through here, also through here. That's pretty bad. Up through here, and through here. And then it would continue out infinitely far this way. Okay, so that was an absolute struggle. But anyway, so notice we have the exact same shape here, right? The exact same shape as this graph above, but now everything's just pushed down 1 unit. So this is y equals cosine of x minus 1. Okay. So again, for simple things like this, now all we did was we took this and pushed it down 1 unit. For simple things like that, we can do like a pre-calculus sort of transformation. But if we combine more things, or if we have more complicated things going on, then we'll have to, or we should do something else, and we'll talk about that later. But anyway, more simple transformations coming up in the next couple videos. So that's example 1 of graphing a basic transformation. And here all we did was just push everything down 1. So I guess before that though, let's talk about how did that affect the domain and range. So what's the new domain and what's the new range? Well, the domain didn't actually change, right? The domain, remember, that's still all real numbers, so you can take anything you want and stick it into the cosine function. Well, if we push everything down 1, that doesn't change anything at all, okay, with the domain. So the domain is exactly the same, negative infinity to positive infinity, all real numbers. What about the range? Well, what's the range of cosine? So for cosine, the range is negative 1 to 1, right? But what we just did is we took everything and pushed it all down 1 unit. So what's the new minimum value? Well, the minimum value before was negative 1. Well, since we pushed everything down, okay, so remember this just means negative 1 less than or equal to y, less than or equal to 1. If we push everything down 1 units, then the new minimum becomes negative 2. Okay, so it used to be negative 1, okay, negative 1, push everything down 1 unit, now we're at negative 2. Okay, that's the new minimum value. What's the new maximum value? Well, it used to be positive 1, but if we push everything down 1 unit, positive 1 gets pushed down to 0. Okay, so 0 is the new maximum. Okay, so the range, since we pushed everything down 1 unit, the range gets shifted downwards like this. So it used to be negative 1 to 1. Now, since everything got pushed down 1 unit, and since range is the y-coordinate, okay, all the y-coordinates decrease by a unit. So since the range, that is the y-coordinates, what we do is just take these, subtract 1 from each. So negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2, 1 minus 1 is 0, so that's our new range. Okay, so again, the domain stayed the same, nothing happened with that because it's all real numbers anyway. And then the range did change because we had a vertical shift. And if you play with things vertically, then that's going to change the range. Okay, so that's just example 1 with a simple transformation and how it affects the domain and range.